Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a couple of days since I last posted a discourse, so welcome back to the space. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys have been well. This Mercury retrograde, hopefully, we only have a couple more days, so hopefully all goes smooth. So many of you guys have been messaging me during our meetings, have been telling me about A to Z printers, telephones, laptops, apps not working properly. Everything is coming in, and this is one of the most intense Mercury retrogrades we have had in a while. But it's also the last Mercury retrograde of this season, so hold in tight. I've also introduced a special healing and activation for that, for your twin flame journey. So if you are feeling all kinds of, you know what I mean, I think this healing is for you. With that, I am going to talk about a topic that was recommended by one of you guys. So, welcome to the space where truth meets the universe, where your heart is held with care, clarity, and depth. So, take a moment, breathe, let your body recalibrate, because what we are entering today is it's not what we are going to talk about today is not a surface level topic. It's not a simple idea that you can memorize. It's embodied. It's soul level mechanism that shapes your twin flame journey from inside out. And before I begin, thank you to the Crow Society for such a beautiful soul activating request. This discourse was birthed from your words. So thank you. So may it not only inspire you and your journey, but every divine feminine working through the labyrinth of forgiveness at the quantum level. So before I begin, I also wanted to honor and thank all of you beautiful viewers. You guys are so kind. Your loving comments. Every time I read all of your kind comments, I'm like, I got to do the discourse today. So thank you. Thank you for being such beautiful viewers. I cannot be blessed more than this. So, again, to the Crow Society, thank you. All right. So, for every one of us divine feminines, we have all been at that point where it's truly hard to forgive our divine masculine, or even trying to understand what forgiveness is on a quantum and energetic standpoint. But it shows maturity and readiness also, right? So this discourse is dedicated to all of you divine feminines who are standing at the doorway of a new level of healing and forgiveness. What you're about to hear, it's not just information, it's an initiation. Forgiveness has layers. Forgiveness itself is an architecture, right? Forgiveness has quantum intelligence, and today you will understand it in the deepest possible way. So, why forgiveness is the most advanced stage of our twin flame journey? Why? So let's begin with the truth, the wisdom, all right? Forgiveness is not emotional softness. Forgiveness is not about excusing harm. Forgiveness is not about bypassing our pain. Forgiveness is a structured shift in our field. It's a quantum correction. It is the moment our nervous system stops repeating the whole old loops of hurt and starts transmitting a new frequency. That's why when we forgive, we do not erase the past. We restore ourselves to the level of consciousness where the past no longer controls us. Most people teach forgiveness from the mind. But on the twin flame journey, forgiveness comes from the soul and the body. And the truth is, it is hard. The mind cannot forget what the body still remembers. The first time he says, I'm not interested. Or the first time he had lashed out on us, or the first time he has embarrassed us, or the first time where he made us feel like we are not worthy, we are a useless piece of blob, or made us feel unattractive or unwanted, or made us feel like we are a weirdo, or anything. Our body remembers, because when that insult or when that words were delivered, our nervous system crashes, right? So the body cannot release what the soul has not understood, and the soul cannot rise until the field is clear. And this is why forgiveness feels so difficult, because we are not fighting a memory, we are dissolving a frequency. So so I want to explain the quantum structure of a wound, right? Every painful moment forms a pattern, and the pattern has a vibration. The vibration settles into our emotional body, our cellular memory, our heart feel, and subconscious layers. So, when our divine masculine triggers us, the experience did not disappear. It created an energetic imprint. That imprint becomes a loop, and that loop becomes a reflex, and the reflex becomes a belief, and the belief becomes a barrier. I love how my mic is changing colors. It's so connected to what I'm saying as well, in a way, right? So forgiveness is the dismantling of the entire structure. Not in theory, but in our actual field. This is why, guys, this is why forgiveness cannot be forced. It must be lived. It must rise naturally as a reflection of inner truth. And it must be anchored with consciousness so that the wound does not rebuild itself. So, there are 4 pillars of divine feminine forgiveness. None of them are easy, and all of them are transformative. First layer is the hardest: forgiveness of self. The moments where we keep replaying the memory where he had first rejected us, or first said words or you received a message where he rejected you, or he blocked you on social media, or the first time where our entire system crashes, or the time he lied to you that he had gone on a date. Oh, divine masculines absolutely do that. or trying to be dishonest about his feelings, and you may have had thoughts like, if only I wasn't too much, if only I hadn't given my heart, if only I played it cool, if only I played games. This is where we got to stop punishing ourselves for what we did not know at the time, because this is where we remove the blame that we carry silently. This is where our heart stops attacking itself for past choices. Okay, the second layer is even all right. The second layer, forgiveness of our beloved divine masculine. And this is also as hard. This is not about romanticizing his wounds, all right? Please, I'm not talking about that at all. This is not about pretending he acted out of love when he acted out of fear. This is about understanding that he responded from unhealed consciousness. So, when we forgive our divine masculine, we free ourselves from the emotional weight of his shadow. Number 3, the third layer, all right? Forgiveness of life. This is one of the hardest, all right? replaying the memories, thinking, I shouldn't have turned up that day. I should not have sent him that 10-page long message. I should not have turned up at the mall he buys bubble tea. I know that's a totally random example, but I should not turn up at the place he gets off to take the train, or to go back home, or I should not have gone to the restaurant that he loves to go, or the club he frequents, or this, that, blah, blah, blah. Forgiveness of life is the hardest, because that what if moments can kill us. If we had done that, he wouldn't have ran away. If I had done that, at least we would have been friends. If I had done that, at least he wouldn't have blocked me. Every detour, every separation, every delay, every moment that looked like abandonment, forgiving life means adopting that the journey unfolded with purpose, even when it felt cruel. And the fourth layer is forgiveness of God. This is the deepest layer, guys. When we forgive God, we release the feeling that we are punished or forgotten. So you come back into trust. We realign with divine order. We return to our path with clean energy and open heart. Every layer releases a different distortion. Each layer restores a different strength. Each layer brings you closer to stable union. So this is the physics of forgiveness, all right? So let's go. Let's take it another notch deeper into the science behind this, because, this is what was asked for by one of you, right? The quantum mechanics of forgiveness. So let's go deeper into the physics, all right? So let's go deeper into the science behind it, because forgiveness is a frequency shift. When we hold resentment, the molecules in our body tightens. The nervous system stays in fight or freeze. Our heart field contracts, our crown and third eye close. Our auric field becomes heavy. Forgiveness relaxes the molecular density of the body, right? The nervous system moves into regulation, the heart opens, our intuition becomes sharper. And this is when our energy becomes receptive instead of defensive. So the field between us and our beloved divine masculine becomes magnetic again. So when we forgive, we release static. Static blocks telepathic communication. Static slows down reunion. So as I was saying, sorry about that. There was an email that work email that came. All right. So as I was saying, static blocks telepathic communication, and static locks you and your DM into karmic repetition, right? So forgiveness dissolves the static. The field becomes clear, our timelines merge again, our soul speaks freely, the emotional channels open. This is why forgiveness feels like relief. We are not softening, we are expanding, right? So, what our divine masculine feels when we forgive him. So this is the part as divine feminines we often wonder, right? Our divine masculine actually feels us. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, but he actually feels us for real. So when we forgive our divine masculine, the pressure inside his chest shifts. The tension in his mind loosens. His internal conflict begins to melt. He may not have words for this. He may not understand why his emotions rise suddenly, but he feels the release in his system. Forgiveness removes the spiritual barrier between you and your divine masculine. This is when our divine masculine starts to remember us, dream of us. This is when he softens. His pride weakens. His soul becomes louder than his fear. Forgiveness does not only liberate us, it liberates him too. So the inner mechanics of pullback and return. Before forgiveness, our field carries hurt. After forgiveness, our field carries truth, wisdom. Before forgiveness, our DM senses our disappointment. After forgiveness, he senses our love without judgment. Our divine masculine returns when he feels safe. He feels safe when the field is clear. The field becomes clear when forgiveness is anchored. Forgiveness is not passive. Forgiveness is power. Another question that probably comes to you, right? Why forgiveness does not mean repeating old timelines? Forgiveness is not reunion with old behavior. Forgiveness is reunion with our highest self, all right? We can forgive deeply and still have boundaries. We can forgive and still require respect. We can forgive and still choose alignment. Forgiveness frees us. It does not enslave us. It restores our sovereignty, right? So that's why what happens to us after forgiveness, as divine feminines, once we forgive, our energy changes. Our presence becomes calm. Our intuition becomes sharp, our voice becomes steady, our heart becomes powerful. We stop reacting, collapsing, chasing, doubting. We become stillness. We become the sanctuary. We become the doorway through which reunion can enter. That's why forgiveness prepares us for the next chapter. Remember, guys, forgiveness is a frequency shift, not a moral badge. Often there's a huge misunderstanding. You think you must forgive. Energies don't lie, frequencies don't lie. Forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook. Especially when it keeps playing back, right? When he's so close, when he spends all the time, when the entire universe stops, and when there's unconditional love presence, when the memories of him looking into your eyes, and how he could say that, how he could block you, how he could do this to us. How can he hurt us? How can he hurt our family members? How can he hurt every cell in our being? How can he deny everything? How can he pretend like none of it's true? None of the feelings are true. So that's why, guys, forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook. It isn't about being the bigger person either. That's all for the 3D mumbo jumbo. It's about frequency realignment. It's about reclaiming coherence in our own field so that no other being, no other wound, no other memory gets to hold power over our nervous system. And this is not about bypassing pain. This is about alchemizing it. Especially for us on a twin flame journey, this isn't about forgiving our beloved divine masculine. It's about forgiving the entire design. That's why forgiveness at this level is energetic science. It's a physics of the field, a quantum dismantling of the hooks, charges, and density forms that fracture the coherence of our sacred union timeline. That's why I want you to look at quantum mechanics. Look at the quantum mechanics of a wound and how trauma lives in the energetic field. When something happens, betrayal, abandonment, silence, rejection, it creates an imprint in our field. And this imprint is not just emotional, it's electromagnetic. The moment we internalize, I'm not enough, or I'm unworthy of love, I am, I'm ugly, or I'm too fat, or I'm this, I'm that. That belief collapses into your quantum body as a distortion. From a physics standpoint, we begin radiating the frequency. For example, you've gained a bit more weight and you feel like your DM is judging you based on that. From a physics standpoint, we begin radiating that frequency, even though you might not even be as heavy as your mind makes it up to be, but you're radiating that frequency, right? And the photonic field of our aura starts sending out a charge. That insecurity, if you feel like you're ugly, if you feel like you're not good enough, if you feel like you're not worthy enough for your DM, your aura starts sending out a charge, and that charge magnetizes similar timelines through your divine masculine. You're no longer just experiencing pain, you're broadcasting it. Forgiveness then is not a passive act, it's a reversal of the charge. It's quantum disentanglement. It's not about what happened, it's about reclaiming our ability to move without distortion. Meaning, once an event has happened, if we don't forgive, we start broadcasting it. He rejected me, he said he said he doesn't like me, he says that oh my goodness, I'm running out of examples. He says that I don't use personal examples or client examples. I keep it very, very general. So let me think about so for example, a specific incident, you got to it's all about like what you're feeling and broadcasting as well. That's why forgiveness is not a passive act, it's the reversal of the charge. So when we are so angry, when we are unable to forgive our divine masculine, from a physics standpoint, we are radiating that frequency. And our aura starts sending out that charge, and that charge magnetizes reflections through our DM. That's why forgiveness is not a passive act. It's the reversal of that charge. It's quantum disentanglement. It's not about what happened. It's about reclaiming our ability to move without distortion. So how forgiveness rewires our twin flame combined energy field? When we forgive, our frequency stabilizes. And because you and your divine masculine share, because we share a co-regulated energy system, through our shared monadic signature, third energy field, our shift impacts our divine masculine. So here's what happens energetically. Our 0 point field stabilizes. Emotional density clears from our solar plexus and heart vortex. The union field recalibrates to neutral resonance. Our divine masculine's higher self receives the update through the third energy grid. Physical level triggers reduce, telepathic communication becomes clearer. This is why our healing is never just for us. When we forgive our divine masculine, we reopen the divine mirror between each other, and our divine masculine can feel it. He might not understand it mentally, but he feels the field soften. So let's be clear, right? Forgiveness is not abandoning our truth, excusing harmful behavior, pretending it didn't hurt, spiritually bypassing rage or grief. That is collapse. That is emotional self-abandonment dressed in spiritual lingo. Forgiveness is actually feeling every frequency of pain fully, naming the reality without softening it, holding our own truth in full emotional maturity, choosing coherence over chaos and neutrality over narrative. It is the act of choosing our field's integrity even when the mind wants, it's trying to figure things out. So the forgiveness loop is like why we repeat pain until we transmute it. We don't keep attracting the same wounding because we are failing. We keep attracting it because the charge is still alive in our field. Our nervous system is coded with micro responses to the trauma, right? Our divine masculine will show us that where we still believe we are unworthy, where our fear being left behind, where our rage is still tethered to abandonment. Forgiveness isn't the end of the loop. It is the moment we stop being the magnet and become the observer. You see, that's why authenticity is about being and expressing and owning. People even mistake authenticity with all sorts of garbage. The truth is, authenticity is being real. And once, as divine feminines, we move out of the performance phase, our divine masculine sees the true authenticity. Authenticity is not about, you know, um, trying to make yourself, authenticity is not about holding yourself back and not expressing yourself. Authenticity is actually about being yourself and fully expressing it. You want to wear colorful clothes? That's authenticity. You want to, style your hair in a certain way? That is authenticity. You want to dye your hair purple? That is but of course, people will say, oh, why is this person coloring their hair purple when their hair is brown, for example? You see, those people are probably still living in minus 3 or 4D. That's why they don't even know what authenticity is. Authenticity is creativity, it's expression, is being ourselves. And often, authenticity and forgiveness come hand in hand as well, because the thought of forgiving versus truly forgiving, there's a thin line between that as well. So if we keep feeling we're unworthy, or if we keep feeling this and that, or we are worried about other people's judgment of us, or we are worried about this, we are worried about that, it's all about the intensity of it all, right? Because you are like thinking, hey, what is going on? Like, what is life in itself? Like, so if your mind is asking you to forgive, then you're going to loop back. But if your soul is getting you to forgive, then deep down there is so much more that is happening. So, forgiveness isn't the end of the loop. All right. So, the energetics of forgiving our beloved divine masculine when he doesn't say sorry, this is the hardest one. And many of you guys have asked me about it during our private sessions. And, during our private sessions, we've talked a lot about this, right? But here's the reality: most divine masculines never apologize in words, and this is the truth. So if you are going to think of this like a 3D relationship and expect "I am sorry" message, I'm so sorry. Because our divine masculines apologize in frequency. Our divine masculines send us signs. They communicate with us through dreams. They shift silently. They orbit closer. They mirror back our growth. So if you wait for a verbal apology, you might delay your own healing, your own progress. Instead, feel when the energetic knot unties. That is the real apology. And sometimes it only happens after you forgive without needing it. So, rewiring the brain during forgiveness. Neuroplasticity in action, right? Neuroscience confirms what us mystics have always known. Forgiveness changes the wiring of our brain. When we shift into forgiveness, the fear response reduces. The prefrontal cortex, higher reasoning, activates. Cortisol drops. Heart brain coherence increases. Vagal tone improves, and this helps regulate twin flame mirroring. You don't only feel lighter, You become light. Your entire system moves closer to divine resonance. The God frequency, forgiving life itself. Sometimes what hurts isn't just our divine masculine, it's the universe, it's God, it's everything. It's the betrayal we feel by life, by fate, by the higher plan. It's the voice inside us that says, why would the universe let this happen? So to forgive God is to come back into spiritual alignment, not because life did it right, but because we are ready to reclaim our co-creative seat in that design. Forgiveness becomes faith, not blind trust, but embodied cosmic intelligence. Right? So forgiveness of self, as I was talking about earlier, is the final quantum breakthrough. We are the one we have judged the most. We judged ourselves for not walking away sooner, letting him come back, being too much, being not enough, awakening first, being the one who still cares. Self-forgiveness is the final quantum key. Until then, our field remains divided. Forgiving ourselves is how we get to the next level. This is what unlocks the third energy. This is what summons sacred union. So I'm going to just give you like a 5-step quantum forgiveness process. All right. Again, to each their own. So I'm just going to give you like a sample, You have to modify it accordingly. Number one, name the imprint. I feel abandoned because, I feel betrayed because, I feel ugly because, I feel unattractive because. Number two, locate it in the body. Where does it sit? Chest, belly, heart. Witness the loop. Where has this shown up before? What belief does it prove? Number four, send a counter frequency. Breathe light, sound, truth into the wound. Finally, close the circuit. I forgive this. I choose coherence now. Repeat this. Modify this as many times as needed. Remember, you're not weak for needing to forgive the same thing more than once. At the monadic level, remember, guys, you and your divine masculine are already in union. Guys, just give me a moment. It's a work thing. All right, sorry about that. I was really thinking of breaking this discourse into a couple of parts, but I'm just like, I want to do this because this is so important, And again, I don't, like to use any example, but from my own experience, this, before I got into union with my DM, stable union, the forgiveness was what changed everything. Because there is no separation to begin with, There is no, because we're always in union, but the realization of that is the most important thing. Because there's nothing to forgive. There's only remembrance. Forgiveness in this realm is the act of aligning our earth self with the higher self. It is the moment we stop fighting the illusion of separation and choose peace. Not as a concept, but as a state of vibration. That's when the union field activates. That's when love becomes reality. So as I want to delve deeper, I want to go deeper into this discourse, right? So the second part of this teaching, the first part we explored emotional, spiritual, quantum, aspects, right? In part 2, I want to expand on the quantum field. This is where forgiveness becomes a literal energetic event. This is where we enter truth not as a concept, but as a frequency. So, if you guys are with me from this point, many people probably like in quantum physics, when an old vibration is no longer fed, it collapses, right? This is called waveform collapse. Now, we have learned it in science, we have learned it in school. Yeah, science. So back when I was in primary school, science was my favorite subject. Then when I went to secondary school, literature and history and geography became my favorite subject. But of course, I still loved physics, chemistry, and biology too. And I was a good student because I loved learning. I loved studying, and so that's why I'm able to bring in a little bit of that from. Even though I'm a lawyer, I studied law in university. But, again, your request, right? So again, going back, every wound inside of us is waveform. Every hurtful memory is a waveform. Every moment of abandonment or rejection has its own vibration. Forgiveness is the moment the emotional body stops feeding the waveform, right? When the energy stops feeding the loop collapses. This is not symbolic, it's literal. Our body stops releasing the hormonal cocktail associated with that hurt. Our field stops projecting the memory into the shared field. Our aura stops carrying the density of that emotional imprint. And our mind stops broadcasting the story into the quantum matrix between us and our beloved divine masculine. This is why forgiveness feels like a release. A collapse has occurred. A mechanical shift has taken place in the field. So let's go deeper, right? Our emotional body communicates in photons. Photons are light particles. Thoughts and emotions generate electromagnetic signals that travel through our auric field. So when we are hurt or angry or disappointed, our field emits a particular pattern of photons that carry the memory of that emotional charge. Our divine masculine receives that pattern. He may not understand it consciously, but his system reacts to it. He feels tightness, avoidance, guilt, or discomfort, and he does not know why. He thinks it is him, but it is the shared field broadcasting our wound. So when forgiveness happens, the photon pattern changes. The field emits coherence instead of static. Our divine masculine feels the shift instantly, right? His emotional resistance lowers, right? His avoidance weakens. His heart recognizes safety again. Forgiveness is not about emotional charity. It's about photonic recalibration. We have been conditioned to forgive, but no one even knows what forgiving is. There is fake level, surface level, symbolic forgiveness, Or there is that diplomatic forgiveness where even if you're not in the wrong, you're asking for forgiveness. So don't fall as divine feminines. Us saying sorry for no reason, like even if our DM is like humiliating us or embarrassing us with these words like I'm not interested or go away or don't talk to me or stop. When we are trying to say sorry, it puts our DM into a more arrogant ego phase where he's like, what is wrong with this girl or lady? Why doesn't she get it? So when we are apologizing without reason, we are actually bringing ourselves down. So apologizing and forgiveness are two ends of the stick, right? But the truth is, apologizing or forgiveness has to come from within. You don't just say sorry to someone when you have done nothing wrong, and you don't just apologize for no reason. Same thing, you don't just forgive because you have to forgive. That is actually very, very unhealthy. Our nervous system, treat our nervous system as a quantum receiver. Our nervous system is like an antenna, right? It receives and sends signals into the quantum field. When a wound is active, our nervous system stays in a contraction state, frozen, tense, hyper alert. This creates an electromagnetic broadcast that says, I am unsafe, I am bracing, I'm expecting the past to happen again. Our divine masculine picks up this signal. He feels the residue of our pain even if we never speak a word. But when we forgive, our nervous system returns to regulation. Our electromagnetic field softens. Our transmission shifts from contraction to coherence. And coherence is magnetic. It pulls our divine masculine towards us. It activates soul memory. It reopens the path to union because forgiveness is an electromagnetic event. So let's go back to an incident that can be considered traumatizing, right? Your DM keeps telling you that he doesn't like you, he dislikes you, and he's literally running away from you, and he lashes out at you and says words that are very, very hurtful. For example, you're not even a stalker and he calls you a stalker, or he accuses you of stalking, or he says things like he's not interested, or he says things like he hates you, or go back to that moment. It is traumatizing. But number one, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for being in that moment. Because you're probably thinking, 5 years later, you pop up at this place and he accuses you of stalking. In 5 years, you thought that you didn't message him, you didn't text him, you didn't communicate with him, you didn't end up at his favorite restaurant, or you intentionally didn't even take the train for 5 years because you knew your DM takes the train. And then he sees you one time outside the train station and he accuses you of stalking. The problem is not with you, the problem is with him. It just confirms that he's very much crazily, obsessively in love with you. If not, why is he so triggered? Why is he so affected? And forgiving such a humiliating event is very difficult. Forgiving yourself is very difficult. So you have to forgive yourself first before you can forgive your DM. Secondly, when your DM uses a word like stalking, he's the one who is stalking you. If not, why is the word coming out of him? Secondly, you being in his mind all the time is not our fault as a divine feminine. It's his problem, right? If only he dealt with the pain by talking it out to you, by telling you how he truly felt, he doesn't have to run. And that is freedom. Not running because he's a coward. Not running because he thinks he's not good enough. Or he thinks because you're going to reject him eventually, so he rejects you first. That's why, guys, forgiveness is an electromagnetic event. Twin flames, we are entangled. We are not a spiritual metaphor, This is quantum entanglement. In entanglement, two particles respond to each other instantly, regardless of distance, and their states influence one another through a shared field. This is what happens between us and our divine masculine. When we forgive, the emotional charge inside our particle collapses, and the collapse immediately transmits to his particle. He may not even know why he suddenly feels lighter. He may not even know why he feels drawn to you. He may not even know why he misses you intensely. But the entangled field has shifted. He's responding to your internal collapse of pain, because forgiveness is a quantum transmission. Each wound creates karmic debris, not karma in the punishment sense. Karma as unresolved emotional density. And again, guys, I want to be very clear. My definition of karma is very different from the 3D definition of karma. Karma is a very 3D concept. Again, I'm only using it for the sake of teaching, but in actuality, there is no karma. It's more of cause and effect, and not so good energies use it as a guilt trap to recycle you back into the matrix. So please, this density becomes clutter. It blocks forward movement, it delays reunion, it interferes with divine timing. Forgiveness clears this karmic debris in the 3D world. It strips your field of old narrative, it dissolves distorted assumptions. It purifies the pathway between you. Every time you forgive, a timeline collapses. Every collapse creates space for a new timeline to form. And this is why suddenly things shift after forgiveness. You're not imagining it, you have purified the path. Forgiveness is timeline engineering. You see, we have all probably been there before, right? Where we just wish there was a timeline. There was a timeline where our divine masculine actually loved us, and if he could jump in, or like, when you watch the Doctor Strange movie, the multiverses movie, you probably wish there was a timeline where you hated him and he was crazy about you, and if you could swap spots. It's not, and these thoughts are not untrue. There is a timeline out there where your divine masculine is crazy about you and you're probably rejecting him. But the truth is, how are you going to anchor yourself into that timeline? How are you going to merge into oneness? So what happens to our divine masculine's field during our forgiveness, right? Let's go deeper into our divine masculine's experience. After he lashes out at us, I like to use the train analogy, because in the Matrix movie, literally is the train, that symbolizes limbo. So yeah, that's my inspiration for the train analogy. So example, he lashes out at you in the middle of a crowded train where everyone is watching, and you keep apologizing to him. A normal person would feel guilt. A divine masculine, absolutely. The scene will keep playing back in his mind, in his life. So when we are still angry and when we still can't get over an incident like that, there is no forgiveness, right? So when we actually forgive, when your forgiveness activates, his field receives the signal. This triggers 3 internal responses. First, his emotional pressure drops. He feels a sudden ease he cannot explain. This is the release of our emotional static. Second, his subconscious wall lowers. His defense weakens, his avoidance loses power. He begins to remember the truth of the bond. Third, his soul voice becomes louder. With the static gone, his intuition rises. He feels us again. He feels drawn to us again. He feels the call to return. Forgiveness activates his awakening. You see, especially in the world where you have got, Netflix, Tinder swindler, to recently, another girl got swindled by a husband as well. I think it's the Danish Confessions or something like that. So she shares a 28-part series. Where we live in a world where love has become so deceptive. As monadic twin flames, we are here to break that. And for that to happen, we need to go deep, right? That's why Forgiveness, it's not only about healing the past, it's about recalibrating our identity. Every wound shapes how we see ourselves. Every hurt shapes our expectations. Every disappointment shapes our readiness over love, for love. So when we forgive, we are not only releasing our divine masculine, we're releasing the version of us who carried the pain. Forgiveness activates our DM's awakening. I want to emphasize on the point. We are releasing the version of us who carried the pain. We are stepping into the version of us who is aligned with union, because forgiveness is an identity upgrade. The stillness, the quantum state of neutrality. The highest state of forgiveness is neutrality. Truly, that's why I always say, guys, go into neutrality. Neutrality is not indifference. Neutrality is power. Neutrality is clarity. Neutrality is the absence of distortion. Neutrality is the closest human state to quantum coherence. So when you reach neutrality, our heart stays open, our mind stays calm, our intuition becomes precise, our emotional body becomes light, our union field becomes stable. This is when our divine masculine feels us in his core. This is when the pull becomes undeniable. This is when reunion becomes possible, because forgiveness leads to neutrality. Neutrality leads to reunion. So, at this moment, you're probably wondering how to even forgive, right? How to even forgive when the pain we experience as divine feminine, not only in this lifetime, lifetimes before, beyond and beyond and beyond. How? So that brings us to the third part of our discourse. So if you're in the third part, you're truly walking the path of an awakening divine feminine. You're not here for comfort, you're here for evolution, because you want to know more, right? You're here for accuracy, you're here for spiritual and emotional mastery. So today, we enter the highest octave of forgiveness. This is not emotional healing, not intellectual understanding. It's not the recoding of our soul field. This is the complete restructuring of your internal architecture, so that your union can anchor itself without distortion. So, as human beings, we carry an emotional, meaning a human body. We carry an emotional blueprint. It's a vibrational map created by past experiences, childhood conditioning, ancestral memories, karmic echoes. This blueprint determines how we love, how we fear, how we attach, and how we protect ourselves. So, when we are hurt by our beloved divine masculine, our emotional blueprint adapts to protect us. It creates new boundaries and new fears. It changes our expectation. It alters our sense of safety, because forgiveness rewrites this blueprint, not by forcing us to forget, but by clearing the distortion inside the memory. When the blueprint rewrites itself, our entire relationship to love changes. Our connection with our beloved divine masculine shifts. Our emotional reactions dissolve, and our inner stability rises. Our capacity to receive deep love expands, because forgiveness is blueprint engineering. So, the higher dimensional body, all right, we have 4 primary bodies that hold memory of pain, right, which you already know: the physical body, emotional body, mental body, and the etheric body. Beyond this, there's a higher dimensional body, and this is where soul codes are stored. These codes contain union pattern, whatever missions we have on earth, core wounds, and our monadic agreements. When a wound occurs, it embeds itself not only into our emotions, but into our soul code. This is why sometimes we feel stuck even after we think we have healed, right? Or healing. Forgiveness resets the code. It's like refreshing a divine blueprint. The old karmic frequency releases. The soul stops looping the same pain again, our union template activates again. This is why real forgiveness feels like a divine reset. We're experiencing a soul code correction. Our twin flame journey is not random. It follows a timeline that reacts to our frequency. Every emotion we hold changes the speed and structure of our timeline. So when we carry resentment, our timeline thickens. Movement stalls, movement slows, communication stalls, synchronicities decrease, and the field becomes heavy. So when forgiveness activates, our timeline thins and sharpens, our path accelerates, signs increase, energetic pull strengthens, and our divine masculine begins to turn towards us instead of away from us. So forgiveness creates a shift in dimensional velocity, and this is why everything suddenly moves after forgiveness. We have changed the trajectory of the timeline itself. Forgiveness is timeline acceleration. Our divine masculine carries masculine architecture, right? This is the structure of his identity, his ego, his defenses, his survival responses, and his emotional armor. So when our wound is active, his architecture is rigid. His defense rise. His fear becomes louder than his love. His logic becomes louder than his intuition. But when we forgive, the rigidity softens. His armor loosens, his ego stops reacting, his heart field opens, his intuition rises, his soul becomes audible. Right? Forgiveness does not just free us, forgiveness upgrades him. He becomes capable of meeting us in a higher level because the field between us is no longer distorted by unresolved pain. Forgiveness activates our divine masculine's evolution. So, as the divine feminine, our heart is not emotional, it's quantum. It emits the strongest coherence field of any energy structure in the human body. As the divine feminine, when we hurt, our quantum heart becomes inverted. It leaks energy, it collapses into grief, it amplifies fear, it sends signals of loss into the shared field. So forgiveness turns the quantum heart right side up. The quantum heart right side up again, right? It becomes radiant, it becomes stable, magnetic, and transmitter of truth instead of pain. So this is when our divine masculine feels us again. He feels the original signature of the bond. He feels, the women he fell in love with on a soul level. He feels the call home, right? He feels us. Forgiveness is a quantum heart restoration. So the highest level, forgiveness as returning to your divine identity. The deepest truth is this. Forgiveness is not about our divine masculine alone, or about the past, or about remembering who we truly are. Every wound takes us away from our divine identity, lowers our frequency. Resentment lowers our frequency. Emotional scarring distorts our inner light. Forgiveness brings us home into our essence, power, and divine feminine mastery. And when we return to our true identity, the union field recognizes us. Our divine masculine recognizes us. Life recognizes us, and the universe aligns with us. Forgiveness is the return of our original soul frequency. So finally, let me take a sip of water. So finally, I think I should be wrapping up this discourse. But you know what? I like it. Many of you guys prefer these longer discourses, And as females, as women, we tend to be more expressive. We tend to be more long-winded, right? So, but to me, is getting the point across. May it be a short discourse or a long one, or a short or a 5-minute video or a 50-minute video or a 5-hour video. So much is, it's always divinely guided. I start all my videos thanking God, thanking the universe, and I end all my videos. So all praise to God always. So finally, we are the final part. We are going to talk about clearing past life residue and releasing density in our field, right? So, the last part of our teaching is not emotional, it's not psychological, it's not even interpersonal. This is like grid work, karmic grid work. This is the layer where forgiveness becomes a multidimensional clearing that affects past lives, ancestral lines, and the union grid that holds us and our beloved divine masculine together across lifetimes. So, if you have reached this level, you're no longer walking the path as a student. You're walking as an initiate. You're standing at the edge of your own soul, remembering. Before we begin to deeply, deeply, deeply explore the last part of our discourse, I want you to take a moment to honor yourself. You've come this far. Be proud of yourself, right? It's so important. Because every twin flame pair is connected through a grid, right? The grid is like a web of soul agreements, past life memories, our monadic bonds, and the quantum cords that hold the two of us in connection across dimensions, multiverses, and beyond. But this grid also contains debris, past life, betrayals, vows you made in old incarnations, fears passed down through your lineage, unresolved trauma from ancestors, unfinished cycles of abandonment and loss. This debris becomes embedded in the karmic grid. And until it is cleared, it keeps repeating through triggers, separations, misunderstandings, and silent collapses. Forgiveness is what clears the grid, not emotional forgiveness, not verbal forgiveness, but soul forgiveness, the kind that removes the karmic residue stored in the quantum threads of our connection. Forgiveness is karmic grid purification. Our body remembers what our conscious mind does not. This is why sometimes the reaction to our divine masculine feels bigger than the current event, because we are not reacting to our divine masculine, we are reacting to the echo of a wound from another lifetime. So it's not the train analogy alone, it's the limbo that I'm talking about, that event that keeps playing again and again, lifetime after lifetime, the same rejected, the same pushing away, the same getting close, and then being separated, external, internal. Maybe he left you in a past incarnation. Maybe you died fighting for him. Maybe he chose if he was a military officer, maybe he chose the military over you. Maybe he promised to return and he never did. Maybe you were separated by war, religion, betrayal. Maybe one of you had to choose duty over love. Those memories live inside our cellular field and they are stored as emotional reflexes. They activate when the twin flame journey triggers us. Forgiveness collapses those past life loops. It releases emotional echoes stored in our energetic memory. It dissolves trauma imprints that our soul carried from incarnation to incarnation. Forgiveness is past life code clearing. Remember, ancestral trauma can affect our bond. All right. Our lineage sometimes carries emotional patterns. You might have had a great 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 grandfather or great 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 grandmother do something. Fear of abandonment, fear of losing love, fear of choosing yourself, being misunderstood, heartbreak, emotional exposure. These patterns become inherited scripts. You do not choose them. These are passed down through genetic memory and epigenetic imprinting, right? Our divine masculine carries his own ancestral imprint. His lineage might have emotional suppression. His family might carry avoidance or shame. His subconscious may hold vows of silence, duty, or loyalty that conflict with his love for you. When two lineages meet, the karmic grids intersect and the unhealed patterns collide. Forgiveness clears ancestral residue. It breaks inherited emotional contracts. It dissolves old programming. It rewires you to operate from soul, not lineage. So forgiveness is ancestral liberation as well. So, as twin flames, when we disconnect, when the grid is clogged, we feel distance, silence, confusion, resistance, karmic heaviness in the field. But when we activate forgiveness, we are not only healing our heart, we are repairing the grid. We reconnect the broken filaments between us, right? We seal energetic links, stabilize the field, restore original pathways of communication. We reopen telepathic multidimensional communication. And this is why after deep forgiveness, you suddenly feel him again. You sense his emotions, you feel the pull, you feel the warmth. The grid has recalibrated because forgiveness is grid restoration. So, really, sometimes there are also contracts that bind us. These contracts are made across lifetime. Vows of love, loyalty, sacrifice, silence, separation. When you forgive, you collapse the outdated contracts. A vow made in fear dissolve. In survival releases, in all consciousness programming breaks, Your soul becomes free to choose again with clarity, and many of us twin flames reunite only after the karmic contract collapses. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks the contract. Forgiveness is contract dissolution. All right. So the more we forgive, the more stable our field becomes. Our emotions become quiet, intuition becomes accurate, heart becomes unshakable, our energy stops reacting to triggers, and our soul steps into its original authority. We become still, stabilizes the anchor that union field recognizes. So when we stabilize as divine feminines, our beloved divine masculine always finds his way home, guaranteed. Because he's not returning to our personality, he's returning to our frequency, right? Because forgiveness is energetic mastery. Remember that, guys. Truly, truly remember that. So, with that, we're going to wrap up our discourse. It might feel deep, intense. Remember, you have not only learned, you have evolved. You have rewritten patterns across lifetimes, lineages, timelines, and dimensions simply by being willing to understand the truth behind forgiveness. So, if you are navigating karmic loops, past life echoes, or ancestral heaviness in your union, you're welcome to book a one-on-one twin flame psychic guidance session with me. This session is created to help you decode patterns, understand your architecture, and receive clarity on energetic mechanics shaping your journey. You do not need to carry centuries of emotional weight alone. Support exists for you. So love you all so much. And guys, I've also introduced the Mercury retrograde healing and activation, because this Mercury retrograde very, very intense. So you can book through the link in the description. Also, guys, this is an excellent time for soul realignment. Truly, it is a clearing that is so vital, very, very important. I've also been introducing the Saturn retrograde healing and activations, and the Saturn Jupiter retrograde healing and activations, also highly, highly recommended. The heart recalibration one, the divine masculine etheric space clearing healing, or if you guys want me to customize a healing for you, guys can write to me as well. With that, all of my sessions are conducted via video call unless specified otherwise. So if you guys book the twin flame psychic guidance session with me, it's one-on-one, conducted by me live via video call, so you guys can ask me all the questions that you need answers to during our session. All right. And again, guys, it's conducted by me. You guys always ask me the question. All right, with that, the 2311 portal was so intense. Many of you guys were writing to me, and so I've also extended it for another couple more days. So if you guys are interested, the healing will be open till Thursday. So if you guys still want to do the 2311 healing and activations, you're welcome to do so, and you can book in a time with me. and that healing is conducted over video call or remotely. All right, with that, love you all. Take a deep breath. This is a lot. And again, thank you. Thank you so much to the Crow Society for this recommendation. Truly. I think it came at such an ideal time. And I'm dedicating this to all fellow Divine Feminines. Love you all and see you all again in another discourse. All right, take care. Love you all and bye bye.